Welcome to our interactive animated explainer. Let's jump right in because our goal for this session is simple but incredibly powerful. We are going to learn exactly how to sound like a polite, respectful local when speaking French, rather than stumbling in and sounding like a brutal, demanding tourist. And we're going to use these awesome animated scenes to really make these concepts stick. Think of today's explainer as climbing a politeness pyramid. We've got 4 steps. First, the rules of because. Then, mastering the vous. Next, the magic of conditional verbs. And finally, real-world ordering scenarios. Section 1. The rules of because. Explaining yourself clearly. Okay, let's dive into this. A huge part of everyday conversation, and honestly the true foundation of being polite, is knowing how to explain exactly why things happen. When you're giving a reason for something, French has a few very specific rules based on grammar and tone. Consider parce. It means because, but it absolutely requires a full, complete sentence right after it. For example, il est en retard parce qu'il y avait du trafic. He is late because there was traffic. Il y avait du trafic is a complete thought. Now compare that to à cause de. It also means because of, but it only requires a noun. Il est en retard à cause du trafic. He is late because of the traffic. You just drop the noun right in there. You would literally never say parce que le trafic. It sounds incredibly awkward to a native ear. But here is where it gets really fascinating. It's all about the emotional tone behind the words. À cause de is used for neutral or negative reasons. For instance, I missed the metro because of your delay. À cause de ton retard. But if the outcome is positive, you absolutely must upgrade your vocabulary. If you want to say, I succeeded because of your help, you don't use à cause de. You use grâce à. J'ai réussi grâce à ton aide. It directly translates to thanks to. Recognizing this subtle difference instantly elevates your French and makes you sound so much more gracious. Section 2. Mastering the vous. The golden rule of social formality. We are now entering a territory that doesn't even exist in the English language, but it's entirely non-negotiable if you want to be polite in France. It's called le vouvoiement. This is the practice of using the pronoun vous, which is typically the plural you, for respect, distance, or formality, even when you're only speaking to a single person. Imagine you're walking into a grocery store and talking to the cashier, or maybe you bump into an elderly neighbor in the hallway. You would definitely use vous. Using the informal tu with a stranger or an elder can come across as overly familiar or, honestly, just plain impolite. So, how does this actually look in practice? Let's contrast the informal tu with the formal vous. Comment vas-tu becomes comment allez-vous. Notice how the verb conjugates in the plural for vous. But here is a beautiful, subtle rule to remember. If you are using vous to speak to just one single person, any adjectives describing them stay in the singular. Look at that second example. Tu es très bon becomes vous êtes très bon. You don't add an S to bon because you're still only complimenting one single person. It's a wonderful little quirk of French grammar. Section 3. The magic of conditional verbs. How to avoid sounding brutal. We're now ascending to the peak of our pyramid, where we learn how to make requests without sounding like demanding amateurs. Notice the stark contrast between these two approaches. If you walk into a cafe and say, je veux un café, literally, I want a coffee, it comes across as incredibly harsh and brutal to native speakers. It sounds like a demand, almost like you're saying, I need a coffee right now. But listen to the polite, softened version, j'aimerais un café, I would like a coffee. It completely shifts the tone. As a learner, it is always a better strategy to over-index on politeness than to accidentally over-index on being demanding. And this brings us to your ultimate toolkit, what the French call the Conditionnel de Politesse. These are the 4 magic verbs you can use to soften absolutely any request. We have aimer becoming j'aimerais, which means I would like, vouloir becoming je voudrais, I would want, pouvoir becoming je pourrais, or as a question, pourrais-je, meaning could I, and finally, prendre, becoming je prendrai, meaning I would take, or I'll have. Just picking one of these and keeping it in your back pocket will instantly transform how you're perceived by native speakers. All right, it is time for a little interactive coaching. Let's set the animated scene. You are at the grocery store. You want to ask the clerk for 150 grams of steak. Using our magic conditional verbs, how do you ask politely? I want you to physically pause this explainer right now and practice speaking your answer out loud. Go ahead, give it a try. Okay, let's reveal the answer. You could perfectly say, je voudrais 150 grammes de steak, s'il vous plaît. Or you could also use je prendrai. And notice what we added at the very end, s'il vous plaît. If you want to show the ultimate sign of respect and ensure your French is perfectly polite, always cap off your conditional request with a crisp s'il vous plaît. Section 4. Real-world ordering scenarios. Applying your skills at the cafe and restaurant. Let's step directly into our real-world scenarios to put your new polite toolkit to the test. First stop, the local cafe. Here's a typical menu you might encounter. You have your sizes or formats, petit, moyen, grand. If you order a standard coffee, you'll ask for a café filtre, which you can get noir, meaning black, avec du lait, with milk, or avec du sucre, with sugar. They also have all the classics, like espresso, latte, and cappuccino. And for a snack, maybe a muffin au bleuet, a blueberry muffin. Here is your second pause and practice moment. You walk up to the counter. You want a large black coffee to go. What do you say to the barista? Remember, you want to use the formal vous, a magic conditional verb, and keep that politeness level sky high. Pause the explainer again and try it out loud. And here is the perfect polite response. Je prendrai un grand café noir à emporter, s'il vous plaît. Je prendrai softens the request beautifully. But the absolutely crucial phrase to remember here if you don't want to drink it at the cafe is à emporter. That is exactly how you tell them you want your order to go. Next, let's step into an elegant French restaurant. A classic French restaurant menu is typically broken down into 3 distinct components. First, l'entrée, which actually means the appetizer in French, like the soup of the day or a green salad. Then comes le plat principal, the main dish featuring classics like steak frites or salmon in a cream sauce. And finally, le dessert, where you might find a crème brûlée or a tiramisu. So, your animated meal was completely delicious. The plates are cleared and you're ready to leave. How do you ask the server for the bill? This is our final interactive pause for the explainer. Dig into your toolkit, find a magic conditional verb, and formulate your polite request. Give it a shot out loud. Excellent. You could say, j'aimerais avoir la facture, s'il vous plaît. Or you could simply say, je voudrais la facture. Also note that while la facture is widely understood, l'addition is a very traditional, slightly more formal word for the bill that is perfectly acceptable and beautifully polite as well. Whichever you chose, combining it with j'aimerais and s'il vous plaît guarantees excellent service. Before we wrap up our culinary journey, I want to briefly pivot and show you how this formal language even extends into written text. Notice the verbs in this meat lasagna recipe: cuisiner, cuire, répéter, ajouter. When giving instructions, French recipes often use the pure infinitive form of the verb, rather than conjugating it. It is a neutral, universally polite way of writing a command without directly bossing the reader around. It's just another fascinating layer of how tone and structure work in this beautiful language. And that brings us to the end of our animated masterclass. I want to leave you with this provocative question. Are you ready to step out of this cartoon classroom and test your French politeness in the real world? Remember, language isn't just about memorizing vocabulary. It's about connection. Making the effort to use grâce, remembering your vous, and softly asking for things with je voudrais won't just make you sound better, it will literally open doors and warm hearts in any French-speaking culture. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep practicing out loud, and I'll see you next time.